so we're talking about Canton today. I was going to ask how many people have heard of Canton. It's kind of like if you know situation, but it's been mentioned twice today. So how many people had heard of Canton before today? A lot of, maybe like half. Okay, that's pretty good. Yeah, David, you know. So excited to talk about it. As Pat has been blowing up a lot recently. I've spent more time in New York than anywhere else this year, in part because of Canton. Reason we're excited about is at Bitwave, we are here to help enterprises and institutions adopt digital assets, and Canton is driving that. So we're going to talk a little bit about what is the network, what makes it unique, why people are excited about it. But like I said, we'll keep this pretty tight. So I'm calling it a public permissioned L1 with privacy. I think that's how they would describe it. I don't know that they would use with permission. It is a public chain anyone can go build, but there are permissioned components to it. Digital Asset, who created the Canton Network, has been working on this for like a decade. Mainnet launch was maybe 18 months ago or 15 months ago, around there. But they've been working in, you heard earlier today about like DLT, distributed ledger technology, working with large institutions that want to explore blockchain, explore DLT for a long time. So they've been building these private chains, private subnets for Wall Street to experiment in different ways. And you may have seen these things in different headlines over the years, but again, a little bit more private. So recently that's come together with the Canton Global Synchronizer in a public way. So these institutions that had a walled garden situation they were building on are now able to sync those subnets, more similar to some of our Avalanche friends that are here, and really connect these folks together. So what Canton is really dedicated to regulated financial institutions. So there's a lot of thought in terms of how this is built to make the folks at Deloitte and David, who was just up here, very happy about how people are engaging with these assets and engaging with the blockchain. I am not going to go deep on the UTXO model and build using DAML, but that is the code that's used to write the blockchain. Find Joe or Jesse and some other folks if you want to talk about that. And the big theme, obviously, just around our industry right now is tokenization, and that is the big theme for Canton as well in terms of tokenizing financial assets. So we will talk about how that is already happening today. All right, we'll keep going for time's sake. So tokenization tipping point. These quotes are kind of awesome. Somebody mentioned Vlad earlier. I think it was Pat. He said this just recently over in Singapore. Tokenization is going to eat the entire financial system. I assume that's a shout out to Mark Andreessen, software eating the world, right, since we're here in SF. And then this quote from Larry Fink is from his letter to his investors, his annual letter that he does. I think I've sent it to like 10 people to read. I don't think a single person has read it, so I will recommend that you guys go Google it and read it. If you actually read it, let me know. It's super interesting. He talks about like the history of capital markets and then kind of builds up to a case of like why tokenization matters. That's coming from BlackRock, not us, right? So it's just really, really interesting to read. Super bullish on it. And these legacy rails, T+2, meaning, and that's just, if you're not familiar with these terms, right, that's just settlement times, right? So how long does it take? So you send an ACH, takes 2 days, T+2. Those legacy rails are under pressure. There's been movement outside of crypto to move things from T+2 to T+1 a couple years ago. That happened more with repos and money markets and kind of speeding these things up. But that is in part because of the pressure coming from blockchain, right? And so you see the pressure from blockchain that forces the incumbents to try and improve. And so it'd be really interesting to see how some of the things develop. To the talk this morning from Matt, how these things will come together, and we'll talk about a couple of those instances. I don't know why I put the BCG McKinsey stat up here. I guess it's like PowerPoint says if you do a stat, you have to have a BCG stat about growth coming. So how is Canton unique? Everyone knows about the mobility piece, so we'll keep that pretty quick. I don't want to confuse anyone with terms here, so when we say atomic settlement, it's like, ooh, that sounds cool. What is that? If you're not familiar with that, that is just the transaction, the asset happening at the same time. So that would be like if Amy and I were exchanging, if I gave her $100 for her iPhone right now, instead of her giving me the iPhone, I said, hey, I'll give that $100 to you later today. Don't worry about it. There's a little bit of counterparty risk there. There's a little bit like what's happening. If we hand it to each other at the exact same time, that's more of an atomic settlement, right? So that's what that means. So just like we want on our blockchains, we're looking for that atomic settlement. What's more unique about Canton is this privacy component. And you'll hear, if you listen to Yuval or Eric over at Digital Asset talk about it, one of my new favorite terms here is selective disclosure. And so privacy is in that meta right now, right, of people talking about privacy. But there's different types of privacy. There's privacy where no one will ever know what you've done. There's privacy where it's private to me, but I can share it with who I want to share it with. And so part of the ethos of the Canton blockchain is really saying, hey, I have a certain level of privacy that I want, but I want this counterparty that I'm interacting with to be able to see what we're doing. And maybe I want to give Jarek at Deloitte the ability to see what I'm doing, and that's okay. So you just have a little bit more control with regulators, with auditors of who can see what. What's also very interesting are these aligned incentives, and I know a couple people in the room are familiar with this because they're working with them on it, but the application layer actually receives a lot of the rewards in the Canton blockchain. So typically we're accustomed to the infrastructure getting most of those rewards, right? A lot of that is happening at the application layer. So if you build an application on the blockchain, actually a lot of rewards that are generated back to you as the application provider, and you can flow that back to users. So those are some of the reasons that folks are excited about it, particularly Wall Street. We'll talk about some examples here. So this is just a sampling of some folks in the Canton ecosystem. We will not talk about all these things today, but somebody mentioned NASDAQ earlier today, right? That was Matt from his Cybos session, which was incredible. I loved how he broke that down. So very simply, NASDAQ has different products, right? One's called Calypso, does a lot of different things, including collateral management. And essentially what they've done with Canton is bridge those assets and that collateral to be able to bring it onto this public chain. So there's a lot of these situations where Canton is bridging TradFi and DeFi and on-chain activity together. So a lot of folks on tokenized assets will talk about Broadridge. You may have seen some things in the news about TradeWeb launching with B of A and Circle and some other folks where actually they settled a repo on a Saturday using USDC as collateral associated with that repo. Pretty cool. Can't do that on Saturday in TradFi. Lots of applications. The tie is like a Bloomberg for crypto that's doing a lot of things. Hydrax, Moody's. Lots of infrastructure if you want to run a validator, folks you can work with. I could have put Bitwave in like every bubble because we're doing so many cool things, but I put us in compliance. Also, our friends at Deloitte that have done a lot of work in the space. So if you're building on Canton, you need advisory, talk to those guys. They know what they're doing. So lots of really interesting use cases. The one I will highlight is Broadridge. So I want to talk about what a repo is because, again, don't want to confuse anybody around Wall Street terminology. Repo is just a repurchase agreement. To oversimplify it a little bit, it's like a really short-term loan. It's generally used for like large financial institutions, also some large corporates if you have a sophisticated treasury. But essentially you're saying, hey, I have some sort of situation where I need cash, and it might be like for the next 4 hours. Like I have $50 in my pocket. I owe Amy $100, so I have a $50 deficit, but I know that Pat's going to come give me $200 in a few hours. I have a liquidity issue, right? So I may engage in a repo to get that cash, and I'll put up collateral for that. So generally, I'm putting up treasuries or something else as like a very safe form of collateral to get that cash. Depending on your background, that may sound super boring or super interesting. I don't know, but it's a really big piece of financial plumbing. And if you're thinking about blockchain the way I'm thinking about blockchain, that is a really good use case for blockchain, right? Because it needs to happen fast. Not T+2, not T+1, not even overnight, which repos are used to. It needs to happen fast, ideally. And you want to limit your counterparty risk. So that atomic settlement thing we were talking about, if you can do that with a repo, you have eliminated that risk. And even though Pat trusts me, he'd rather not have to, right? If you don't have to, you don't have to. So this is really interesting. It's not just theoretical. Broadridge is doing this today at massive scale. I'll kind of skip through some of the benefits here for time's sake, but it's the things that you would expect when you think about new technology and improvements. It's lowering your capital costs, it's reducing your risk, it's enhancing your efficiency, and it's happening today. So last piece here is we'll look at the volume. This was as of a couple days ago on rwa.xyz. That's 352 billion with a B in that day. And that's happening on chain right now. So sometimes we've joked about Canton maybe like the best kept secret in crypto, and I don't know why, but I think people are waking up to it. We've seen more Twitter followers on the Canton account and more things going on. This is happening today using this Canton technology, and it's coming together with the global synchronizer. So we're super excited about tokenization of financial assets, like a lot of folks in this room. Repos are really low-hanging fruit. Obviously, we've been talking about stable coins, excited about money markets, bonds, other directions this may go. So if you're interested in learning about these things, I would highly recommend that you check out Canton. Just go to Canton Network. They've got lots of good resources. Feel free to talk to me. Shoot me an email. Shoot me a LinkedIn. Be happy to talk to you about it. And yeah, appreciate the time. Let's go.